Okay, I think I'm ready to start. So, hello there. My name is William, also known as Sir Aaron, and today I'm picking up where I left off about 2 weeks ago to continue drawing some of my world map. Well, I say picking up where I left off. I've been working on this in the background on and off. So I'll be showing some of the progress that I made, basically skipping some of the boring parts like just filling in coastal details and rivers and stuff. And today's stream is primarily going to be about expanding some thoughts on my on the geometry of this world that I mentioned in the last stream, but also how that geometry will affect the way that wind currents and ocean currents work in this world to help me to make climate zones so that I can begin to basically block off the colors on the map in order to like work out which bits are hot and which bits are cold and which bits are somewhere in between. So, yeah, that's about it, really. Thank you for joining me, and let's dive into Critter. So, the first thing that I wanted to show, or first thing that I wanted to talk about, I guess if you've not seen the previous stream, or just as a quick reminder, this is, let's see. So this is where we were up to at the end of last stream. This is a sort of disc type world, except it has a somewhat unique, I think, looping property similar to a torus, but with some intricacies. So to go into more detail about that, I did a little thought experiment and put together some animations. So that's what this white circle is here. So let's see. Mapvember. Oh, that's a good name for it. That's a good name for it. Yeah. So yes. Sorry, I've only just woken up. I'm still slightly tired. I'm drinking some coffee. Okay, so this is a circle. Let's consider for a moment that the outer layer of this circle, the outer perimeter here, this red final meridian, is the black border that we see here. So I was thinking about how you traverse this world. Now, so I mentioned last time that it's similar to a torus, in that you can basically go in one direction, and you will loop around kind of indefinitely. So I drew a little animation of that, which is right here. So hopefully this is showing up all right. So I think this is quite simple, quite intuitive. You keep going in one direction, you immediately show up on the other side of the map and keep going in that same direction. So this is basically just a straight line. Importantly, though, it's a straight line that goes through the center, and so it's drawing a right angle with the point of intersection with the exterior of the circle. So if that line is offset slightly from the center, then we get something which looks like a square, but is technically a straight line. So that's what this is. Let's see. This is starts at 85 and ends over here at 152. So now let's generate this one. So this is a straight line that starts offset from the center. And the peculiar thing is, and this took me a while to figure out, is that your angle of incident when you're approaching like this will send you to a point that is 180 degrees away, drawing a tangent through the center. Or sorry, dropping a perpendicular through the center. But your angle of incident remains the same, so that's why it kind of looks like you're going around in a square. So straight lines start to get weird in this geometry. Thankfully, if you're actually a real person standing in this world, when you cross the border, you wouldn't really notice. I think the straight line problem will mostly only affect, like, it'll mostly only bother cartographers and possibly sailors, but your average person is not going to actually notice this sort of strange property. So I was playing around with some other things as well. So this would be a circle that goes around the outside, which I quite like. So you start going this way, you appear on the other side, keep going around. I probably made too many of these for demonstration purposes. This one here is another circle, but this one is larger and goes through the center twice on each side. So this one goes around and down this way and up, back this way, around to the right, and then back to the center. So it's kind of not very intuitive, but it's kind of fun, and I think the best way to show, sort of why why it seems to be that you're popping out at a strange angle is this animation here. So this is a circle that basically follows the exterior meridian, and you can see quite easily now how you're basically always 180 degrees away, and so your angle of incident is like flipped 180 degrees. So I think hopefully you can see how that sort of works. What were the other ones I made? Oh yeah, another circle. So this is technically a circle. It looks very strange. And oh, this one, yeah, last one. This is a square. This is a square which the points A, B, C, and D on this square have been extended beyond the range of the circle, but the circle, the white circle in the middle, the white disc here in the middle, is our geometry. It's the only space that anything can exist in. So if you try to go into the black border, you can't. You just come back into the white space. So that's why this is a square, and it kind of flips back in on itself in a weird way. And the animation on this one is just kind of bizarre. So this goes up, and then along there, and then down there, and turns. Goes up to the left, comes along, turns. Up along the top, comes up, turns, and then down the right, and back to the start. It's it's strange. So I had some fun with that. I don't think it's quite as relevant to this world as I'm making it seem. I suppose the important part, though, is just how the world is knowing, for the purpose of knowing just where you're going to show up. If you're trying to track your position on a map like this, then you'll need to know roughly where you are on the exterior edge of the circle, and then know where the center is relative to your position, so that you can jump 180 degrees to the other side of the map. So let's take a look at my progress now. So this is where we left off. We have this central crater island, and a big ocean to the south, and a partial ocean to the north, and a big crater in the northeast. And I'm saying northeast and northwest, and using traditional cardinal directions for the moment, just for my own sanity. But in reality, these terms would probably not mean the same thing as we think of them on a sphere. Let's see what chat's saying. Make sure you post your results in MapVember channel. Oh, sure, yeah, we'll do. And whatever the equivalent of Reddit is in your world might also start dancing around and shouting about the ideas. Thank you. So this is where we left off, as I said. Now it's pretty messy, pretty scruffy. And if you remember, this is the original map that I drew on paper. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been slowly improving this, and so this was, I think this is what I did after I finished the stream. So I started, actually no, I think this took a bit longer, let's see. So the original didn't have any stuff like this up here. So yeah, I think this one took a little while to get it to this point. So I added a lot of fjords and stuff up in the north. I added some larger islands, and the stuff in white at the moment on this particular map is stuff that is like still very unfinished. I wanted to add a big continent down here. I've just got like a big white blob at the moment as my north and south pole, because of course they're the same thing, because you would flip 180 degrees. That's what I mean by like cardinal directions are weird in this world. And probably most importantly, I like to help with this idea about sort of knowing where you show up when you cross the border. I added these numbers on the side that hopefully you can see. So let's say you're here, you're out here in the east, and you cross roughly around point 10 on this scale. Then you know that you'll appear on the other side of the map at point 10, 180 degrees away. So you'll appear up down here in the southwest. So you were in the northeast, and you'll appear down in the southwest. Yeah, the thing that I said about the straight lines earlier kind of is irrelevant from a person's point of view. A, because the world is so big, but also just because when you're walking, you're not going to keep your angle of incident. You're just going to turn in the direction that you want to go. So it's not really a big deal. But lasers, shooting a laser across the border of this reality would look very strange, I've realized. Especially because it would loop like infinitely. Yeah. Anyway, or no, it would. I'm not going to think about that. Anyway, so continuing, I started filling in these white spots, continuing to improve the world. So this is getting much closer to completion now. You can see on this version I added some very faint white lines just to sort of show where the watersheds are for the different mountain ranges. Oh yeah, on this one you can see that I've made the crater. I haven't made the crater smaller, but I've made the amount of water filling this crater. I've made the water filling this crater less, which means that a small-ish, a completely isolated civilization can basically cultivate this huge crater valley with hundreds and hundreds of rivers in it, and like basically have their own. Probably they'd have their own microclimate and stuff as well, because there'd just be no way for the water in this deep crater to ever really escape to the outside world. Let's see. I started on the north/south pole, and I changed the big river in the west, made it much more expansive and wiggly, and gave it hundreds of tributaries. And then I wasn't quite sure. Oh yeah, I added another river over here. And then I wasn't quite sure what to do with this last little bit. Like, I knew that I wanted the east, this sort of big east landmass over here to be a desert, and I knew that I wanted the western part here to be a forest, to be a sort of subtropical zone. And so I thought about putting in this this like strange tearing valley shape thing, which I think was previously over here in the east. So I deliberated over that for a while, and I think in the end, I moved it back to the east, and I'm sort of imagining this as like, I'm not exactly sure if this is actually how it would look if this happened, but the way I'm imagining these like hundreds of long lake valleys forming is like there's two tectonic plates here, and they're continental tectonic plates, and they're like slowly pulling apart, but they're pulling about at like a slightly off angle, and so it's tearing the land apart very, very gently, like stretch marks. So I just think that looks really cool, just having lots of long lakes like that. So I wanted to keep that somewhere. And then we're at the final one. Oh, I finished work on the North Pole, and then and then this is where we're up to so far. So I decided to add a sort of more swampy jungle to the far west, and then a sort of large water divide, not quite cutting the continent in half, but enough to allow a big desert to be put here without like blending too much into the jungle on the other side of the world. And you can see on this variant of the map as well that I have basically repeated sections of the topology from the other side of the map. So if you look up here at between 6 and 5, there's a big lake. And then if we go down to the opposite side, we see that same big lake between 6 and 5, but flipped 180 degrees. So that helps to like line yourself up on the map as well. So that brings us to the current map, the current state of the map. No, I don't want to save that, and I don't want to save that either. So I colored it green and blue because that's a bit nicer to stare at. And I need to switch back to a different workspace because I was in animation mode. Let's see. Default. There we go. And let's move this to the side. And I'm missing something else, aren't I? Tool options. There we go. I should not have destroyed my workspace. I am a fool. Oh, god damn it. No, okay, I'm just gonna have to suffer. I'll figure that out later. Alright, so, or will I? Can I just put this over here? Yeah, sweet. Alright. Okay, so, so as I said, today we're going to be looking at ocean currents and wind currents in order to get the climate zones on this map in order. So, I took some notes, been studying my science and trying to figure out this stuff before I started recording. Hopefully I can, like, I'm not trying to be too scientifically accurate, especially because this is a world with magic in, but I do want it to be believable. I think that's important. So, for example, I mentioned tectonic plates a moment ago, and I'll be talking about wind current cells and ocean current cells in a moment. And I was thinking about like what physically are these things in the world? What are tectonic plates? What are wind cells? Because obviously this isn't a sphere, and it's not orbiting a central star. There's no axial tilt. It's not even spinning. So there's no Coriolis effect, and there's no, or ostensibly there would be no Coriolis effect, and there'd be no seasons. So I have to like force these things into the world via other means that are not naturally, not a physical consequence of the universe, but rather a thing that is being imposed on the world by an external force. And so that's where things like gods and elementals come in. So in my world, all elementals are dragons. Dragons are the highest form of elemental power, basically. And so my thinking is that these air current cells and ocean current cells and tectonic plates are actually physically dragons that are very, very slowly moving around the world and having wars with each other at a scale that humans just can't even comprehend. And so that's what the weather is, and that's what the climate is, and that's what the seasons are. It's just like these various dragons having scuffs with each other. On like geological timescales. So, air currents. I think doing air currents first will be probably easiest. Dragon-based tectonics, yeah. Because one thing I really like is this idea that like you see it in some other worlds, or off the top of my head I can't think of the names of any, but I have seen this in other settings where like the world itself is like built on the corpses of titans, and like just these huge incomprehensible beings are like ruling, not even ruling the world, they just are the world. And we poor mortal humans like just have no idea about any of that, or maybe we do, but only through legend. Okay, yeah, so oh yes, I did make this, didn't I? Yeah, so this was a rough kind of tectonic map which I made, which I'm not too sure if it matters that much, but you can see here what I mean about like the pulling apart thing. I'm not really sure how accurate this is. There's probably too many continental tectonic plates in this world if we were going for something Earth-like. With this many, there would probably be a lot of earthquakes all over the world, basically all the time. So I'm not going to pay too much attention to the accuracy of that. That was just a sort of little thought experiment. But I should do something similar to that for our air currents. So let's make a new layer, and let's call it air currents. And I'm going to get out just a simple pixel brush. Yeah, Patrick Stewart's doing something similar. I really like his work. I want to basically rip veins of the earth out and add it to my world, just like unapologetically. Like just if you want to go underground in this world, go and buy veins of the earth because it's great. Let's see. What color do we want? We want blue. Okay, so blue, we're going to use like a bright cyan blue, I think, to represent dry, cool air. So I'm going to make a little palette over here on the side so I can get these colors back later. And I did it on the wrong layer. Or no, the layer's at the wrong level. That's where it is. I'll just get rid of this circle. That'll do. Okay, so I'm going to make a air current palette over here. So we've got this nice blue for cool air. We're going to go for a purplish pink, magenta color for temperate air, and then a sort of orangish for hot, moist air. And yes, let's go to my 2-pixel brush. Oi, come on, 2 pixels. No? Okay, close enough. 2-pixel brush. And so I guess a quick rundown on how air current cells work in the first place is you find a hot spot, which on Earth is like the equator. And typically warm, moist air is going to rise up from the equator. And as it rises, the pressure changes, and that forces the water in the air, the moistness, to begin to precipitate, which is why around the equator there is a lot of jungles. It's very, very hot and very, very damp, and it rains all the time. And then as it blows north or south, it will begin to drift in a particular direction with a slight tilt to it because of the Coriolis effect. But as it drifts north, it begins to dry off more and more as it drops more and more of its water, and as it dries off, it also cools down. And so where it is driest and hottest, as it's floating above the world, basically, that's where you're going to find deserts and stuff. And then as it drops down, it will form what's called the subtropic ridge. And then that cold, dry air, one of two things will really happen. It will either get sucked back towards the jungles, back down to the south, say, or it will come further north and gain more water and come up about 60 degrees, again on a sphere, and, begin to rise again, drop its water. And so this is why Britain and other parts of Europe are so damn rainy, because we're at like just the right point where where the air current cells are just dropping all their water on us as they're heating up. And then you can basically add as many of these cells as you like. There are probably better videos that I can make explaining this in more detail, or you can look it up on Wikipedia or whatever. So actually, yeah, I will start with the hot air because I know where I want the hot to be. Because we know that there is a jungle over here. There we go. Okay, so yeah, we want this to be a jungle. All of this is jungle. So we want this to have hot, moist air. And I know that I want this to be a desert, and I want this to be the North Pole, obviously, or a polar cap, and we want this to be a desert. So Let's think. Okay, so we need to choose a spin direction for this air, basically, to approximate the Coriolis effect. However, if we do choose a spin direction, then like one thing that we immediately need to take notice of is the fact that if the wind is going this way, say, with a slight spin, a slight angle, then as we mentioned before with the straight line problem, that is going to pop out on the other side of the world, down here. Where's that pointing? That's pointing at 15 at roughly this angle. So so if we wanted to do this sort of thing where, like, similar to the sort of swirling patterns that you see on Earth, then we're actually kind of going to be in a huge, it's like this whole world is just going to be full of hurricanes. Probably. So if I do give it a spin, it needs to be a very gentle spin. Because otherwise this world is just going to be inhospitable. Okay. So, yes, let's start here, actually. Because we know that this is going to be hot, right? So this is hot and rising. And let's say it's going this way. So there's like a small mountain ridge here. I haven't really decided how tall any of these mountains are. These are just the watersheds. So the wind wouldn't go this way. It just wouldn't do that because of the hills there. And our desert is like over here. So let's give it just a touch of a spin. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Right. So we got warm air going this way. So that's between 11 and 12. So in the opposite direction, between 11 and 12, we want this to be coming, yeah, so it's coming in like this, and then it's going to cool down. So as it crosses this little bit of ocean, this little bit of water, it will begin to cool down. It's going to keep going this way, but it should keep its angle of instant, which should be about that. So that basically puts us in position for this to be a desert. So that's great. And then I guess there would be a temperate sort of back blow this way. It's difficult to do this because obviously it's the hot air rises and the cool air falls, and they're different densities, so the different air temperatures are sitting on top of each other, and this is like a top-down map. So ideally I would need a different kind of map to show this properly, so this is just going to be an approximation. Okay, so we got that nice arrow there. And I guess the wind would like have to follow these mountain ridges a little bit, and it would want to follow them even. So let's put another arrow in there. So that's between 10 and 9, pointing at 9. So that would be like here, and then this cooler, drier wind. Oh, actually, I know what we've done wrong. Yeah, so the drier, cool wind should come back like this. Let's do this. Okay. Yeah. And then this, let's see. This arrow here should be purple, because that's still warm, but like not quite fully warm. Okay, and let's put a bit of a spin on it to just kind of show how this is looking. So we've got an arrow coming back like this. I think that's right. No, that one's coming up here like this. And I guess this one can do the same, because they would get kind of buffeted off of this mountain ridge with the crater. You're welcome, man. Thanks for joining us. I lost my pen. What did I do? There we go. Okay. So that gives us a nice desert and a nice jungle. Good. This is coming up here as well. And I guess we'd have another one coming like this. And I guess a slightly... Well, this would have to be hot as well, I guess. Coming down this mountain ridge. Or it would be heating up, actually. Yeah, so let's do that. Okay. Then we want... Yeah, we still need this to be a desert further on. So let's have it, let's put another arrow here like this. Let's have some more orange coming across the ocean. So this will have to be a warm ocean to sustain a wind like that. And that's about at 13. So yeah, so that's coming off of here. And then it's cooling down, and it's, I guess, getting buffeted here and here. And well, I think that's probably fine, actually. Now we also know that we want hot wind along here, because this is a little micro jungle, this river here. Oh, cool, you're going to Dragon Meet. Nice. Man, I should try and get to more conventions. Okay. Okay, so this whole, like, set of valleys here probably going to be kind of temperate, relatively at least. And then these two are like deserts, I guess. Okay, yeah, so there's like a whole little cell circular thing going on here. And then a bit more of a desert down here. And let's think. I think I've done this wrong somewhere. It'll probably be fine. Like I said, this is just an approximation. Okay, let's jump up here and see what happens. Okay, so we know that we want cold wind coming from the north. But it can't go in both directions, can it? Yeah, we okay, so I was about to say, oh, so let's just have some nice arrows doing this and doing this. But that would imply that like the wind is just sort of parting itself somehow. Which well, it might be able to do that. Okay, I've just thought of another way I could do this, which would be like, because we have layers, we could have the different temperatures on different layers, but that would be too complicated. Oh, I know what we can do. So, I mean, again, these things are technically dragons in my world, so they don't have to behave properly as well. Or they don't have to accord with science, at least. So, I'm going to say that there's like this cold, dry wind that is basically making these like circular storms with itself in the pole. Yeah, so then that's gonna come down and up like this. And like this. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we've got this like basically a big cold spot, which is just like spinning around itself, and it's kind of, I guess it would basically send out these temperate eddies of wind. That kind of have a different spin to them. So this is like a cold... This would be like a whirlpool, but like with the wind. And that's going to basically send out wind currents in a bunch of different directions. In fact, this might be the battery for the entire climate on this planet, come to think of it. There's just a huge cold dragon living up here who's really angry and just sending all of these ripples into the rest of the climate. So it's gonna heat up again. It's gonna have to come back somehow. So yeah, let's just put in some smaller eddies, and I'm trying to be mindful of... That's going in the wrong direction. I'm trying to be mindful of the mountain ridges as well, to try and get the air to come off at the right angles. Yeah, I think that'll be all right. So, I mean, these red arrows are kind of relative, right? So this is still relative to like the jungle. This is still like really cold air, but relative to the air that's coming from the center a few hundred miles away, this is warm and moist. So there'd just be a heckload of storms in the north. You do not want to sail near this ice cap, not just because of all of the icebergs, but also because of the storms. Okay, cool. Okay. So, yeah, so the thing that I forgot earlier is that, like, the way these cells link up with each other is a bit like clockwork, or rather a bit like cogs. So if one of them is going this way, then the other one, like one next to it, like has to go this way. And this is also true of ocean currents. I guess the way that the ocean currents and wind current things work is they're very, very similar. It's both fluid dynamics, sort of. Well, yeah, one's aerodynamics, one's fluid dynamics, but they behave actually pretty similarly when you get down to it. The main difference is that the air currents get blocked by mountain ridges, so like your wind is not really going to be able to do this. If this is a big mountain ridge, it would have to follow the sort of curvature of the mountain, and the ocean currents have to follow the like get blocked by continents, by coastlines. So that's a lot easier to figure out, because you can just easily tell what is blue and what is green, where the land starts and the ocean stops. So if there was an ocean current here, it would have to follow this this curvature. But yeah, so they're like clockwork. So like one has to go this. If one is going this way, the other has to go this way, and then the one over here would have to go this way again. So that's what I forgot about earlier when I was doing the bit up here, and that's why I said it might be wrong. So now that I've got a bunch of circles down here at the bottom, I guess I'm just going to follow these for a while and see where they lead me. It'd be interesting to see this world make its way onto World Anvil during World Ember. Please tell me more about World Anvil administration. I have not heard of that. Or link me to whatever it is. Okay, so yeah, so we're gonna have to have some other warm air coming around in a. This one's going clockwise, so this one has to go counterclockwise. Similarly, this one is coming counterclockwise. This one's gonna go counterclockwise, 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 counterclockwise. And this one is coming counterclockwise, this one counterclockwise. Put another one in here like this. Now there's a bunch of mountains here. And these are quite drastic mountains. These are quite steep, and you can tell that they're quite steep without even having them properly drawn in, because of how angular the rivers are. So like there's this central river here, say, and all of the tributaries, almost all of the tributaries, are drawing close to right angles with the mainline river. So that's how you can tell that it's a steep river, because basically you've got the valley, and it's such a steep valley that all of the water that's coming off the side mountains is just coming straight down to the center, and then it's all joining together and going in a single direction. So we know just from the way that I've drawn these rivers that these are very steep mountains, which means that as the warmer air comes off like this, and let's sort of follow that curvature there because that looks nice, we will know that warmer air is going to be like channeling through some of these valleys, basically. See, that one's going that way, so this one has to go this way. And where the cool air is meeting the... oh boy. Yeah, where any of this cool air meets the hot air, because the cool air is... oh no, wait. No, I'm getting it the other way around. Yeah, so where there is hot air coming in low and cool air coming up high off the mountains, and they're like mingling together, that's where we're going to get lots and lots of thunderstorms. And that's bound to... I'm probably not drawing it right, but that is bound to happen here. At various points. So this mountain range would just be full of thunder dragons or something. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have like this follow the curvature around like this, I think. Yeah, I like that. Okay. And what else is it gonna do? I guess we'll put a cold one in here. And then some more temperate eddies coming in here. More cold going in the opposite direction. Warming up. An eddy there. Cooling down. And then warm air coming up like this. We could also have, let's see, cold air doing this. More temperate air coming around like this. And I think I'm getting this wrong again. It's fine. Okay. Again, this is close enough for our purposes, probably. Let's see. It's our month of world building competition. That is a yearly event for us. Our world building take on NaNoWriMo. Okay, fair enough. I will check that out later. I must admit that I haven't actually put any of this stuff that I'm talking about right now onto World Anvil yet, but I am planning to do so at some point. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. So we got some cold air coming around like this, and like this. Oh wait, no, there's like a mountain range there. Well, it can still come around like this. That's fine. Alright. Okay, so we're starting to like edge our way over to the desert now. So I'm just gonna put like, I'm just gonna do this in here. Because as I said, I reckon this is just like a microclimate. And this whole crater civilization or whatever, their seasons would basically just be the slow procession of these four wind types as they just oscillate their way around the crater valley, which I think is quite cool. And they might occasionally, yeah, because there would be a feedback loop. Probably every few years, the crater people who live here would have to put up with some huge hurricanes or tornadoes or something, as the feedback loop gets just kind of uncontrollable, and then it would settle down a bit, and then probably reverse and slowly crank up in the other direction, get lots and lots of tornadoes in the other direction, and then the feedback loop would die back down again and reverse again. So like, living in that crater would be, well, it would be something, that's for sure. Alright, let's see. So we want some warm air doing this. And that's coming around like this, and I'm just gonna like put a little blue arrow doing that to sort of show how that links up. What else? Yeah, let's try and link this up with the desert so that we can actually see if we're right. And it looks like, apart from the direction, we are about bang on the money. Let's see. This one is temperate wind doing this, and hot air coming up like this. Oh, this is a mountain range here though, isn't it? Okay, well I guess it's a bit straighter, bit straight and narrow, bit windy. Oops, wrong direction. Okay. Oh, these are wrong. Never mind. Yeah, let's flip this the other way around. Wrong color. Right direction, wrong color. Okay. That's gonna do that. And that's gonna do that. There we go. Dragons are particularly angry going into Tuesday, so expect high winds. They're expecting to enter a month of long topper after that, so expect very little. As always, we'll be with you live when the beast living in the east releases the next weather pattern. That's great. Yes, that's exactly the sort of thing that they would do. The other thing is because they're literally like sentient beings as well. You could kind of you could petition the dragons to like calm down a bit for a while, whilst like I don't know, maybe you've got a wedding or a coronation or something, and you want good weather. You go and like make a donation to the dragons, and hope that they just like chill for a bit. Okay. All right. Yeah. So looks like this is doing that. This is doing. This is gonna come through like this. This is gonna come through. I guess like this. Oops. That's gonna do that, and then it's gonna cool down here. Ah, these are going in the wrong direction. Shit. Well, actually, no. No. Let's, yeah. Actually, yeah. I'm just gonna get rid of everything that we drew at the start. Because I think my idea about the North Pole basically being the battery for the entire weather system that kind of has a chain effect on everything else, I think that's a good idea. Of course, there might be another, like, a hot dragon living in these jungles who may be doing a similar thing, but I'm going to try and get them to synchronize. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to have these, like, follow... around like this, and hopefully find a way to get them to link up. Oh. Yeah, this isn't here anymore. Okay. And I guess there would be a little eddy like that as well. Cool. Okay. Yes, so we want hot air to be coming from here, so I'm gonna be bold. And I'm gonna... Ah, no, wait. Okay. So this arrow is currently dictating that the hot air should go this way. But that would put a jungle here, which we don't want. Okay, so we now have two options, I guess. Because if we want like a big hot dragon over here who is churning up the weather in a similar way to the cold dragon up here, then the easiest way to do that is to just do it. And then basically along the sort of in the big X shape that would form, but where these two dragon winds converge mostly, there would just be a lot of hurricanes, which we're kind of already seeing happen just from the amount of mountains. But it would basically mean like, well, I don't want this world to be too inhospitable, but it is meant to be quite a dangerous place to live. If I decide to dual stream on Twitch as well as YouTube, we're trying to direct our audience towards people streaming. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've no idea how to do that. That would be cool to figure something like that out. I'm pretty amateurish when it comes to streaming and such. I don't... No, I do have a Twitch account, but I've never really used it for streaming. I think it's because I've slowly built up an audience on YouTube, and I just don't really want to abandon that. Yeah, I'm not very good at this stuff, but yeah, I'll have a think and try and figure something out. Let's see. Okay. Okay, yeah, so let's finish what I was saying before, and let's get rid of this stuff from the start of the stream. Let's get rid of that. I think this is fine down here for now. And then, yeah, we definitely want hot air rising over here. So let's put that in. And that. And let's bring this down here. And we want yeah, I feel like yeah, I think that's what it is. I think there's like a dragon up here, and he's just like pushing hot air out in a bunch of different directions. And so that's why yeah, okay. So I want this this part here that we're looking at to be a desert as well. So we know that we want sort of colder air to be coming up like this. Or actually, let's do it like this and this. So maybe there's like straight up just a volcano, like right here or something. That would be pretty cool. In fact, let's just do that right now. Just to remind myself for later, let's just put a big old hole right here. And I'll come back later and look at that and think, what's that hole? And then I'll remember, oh yeah, it's a volcano. Sunday lunch is calling. All right. Yeah, have a good one. Thanks for chatting. And yeah, I'll be in touch. Have a good Sunday. And if you want to chat more maths and geometry, then yeah, just send me a link. Hit me up on Discord. I did a maths degree, which is why some of this stuff is so fascinating to me. then it's gonna like, it's gotta be cooling down by about now. Well, maybe not, because we do still want that to be jungle. And we want down here to be desert, don't we? Okay, so this is desert, and this is desert. We're in jungle zone still. And we want this to be desert, and this to be desert. So we keep drawing this wrong. That's what's wrong. Also, we're drawing on the wrong layer. Crap. How long have we been doing that? Okay, not too long. Good. Okay, yeah, so we've been drawing... Yeah, I feel like we're doing part of this wrong again. This desert is hard. Okay, so big, cold, dry air doing this. Another big, cold, dry air doing that, which means this is definitely desert. The opposite effect has to be doing this, and this one has to be doing this. I think this wind here is just gonna keep snaking around. And I think it's gonna join here, basically. If this is going this way, then we've got a temperate bit doing this. And a warm bit here. Okay, so there's like potentially jungle stuff here, and then we've got hot air coming into this valley. Potentially. Hot air travels high, and so it would sink. It would lose all its water as it's coming across this mountain range, which means there's definitely a jungle here as well, but we want a jungle here too. So we've got basically hot air meeting hot air with these two. Yeah, okay. And we can do this, I think. It means we're going to have lots of tornadoes and possibly thunderstorms in this region, but like maybe not actually. Well, either way, it basically means that that because there's a mountain range here, we've got hot air on both sides coming, but they're coming in different directions, and there's like a mountain range separating them. So I think it's okay that they're not lining up properly. Oh, or actually, let's just reverse the direction on this, and then it'll be fine. All right. Where does that leave us? This is going... These are going in the wrong direction. Yeah, let's make this bigger and then it'll be fine. Oh, that's what's wrong. Yeah, they're going in the wrong direction. Okay. In that case, this is just going to do that. And this one can do that, I guess. Which means we should really put some kind of mountain here to help separate these two wind channels. Which probably makes sense given our strange stretch marks, valley, lake stuff going on down here. There probably would be a mountain up here somewhere. Okay. So this is heating up here again. And yes, this is perfect. Cooling down, cooling down. And if we really want, we can put like that there as well. So that, again, there's probably quite a few thunderstorms and tornadoes and stuff going on around this part of the desert. Oops, wrong layer. How long have we been in the wrong layer? Okay, just those three. Whoops. Okay. Okay, so air currents, blah blah blah, and then we want what? We want some hot doing this. Yeah, that seems alright. Some temperate doing that, and yes, perfect. Cold right here where we wanted a desert. Good. after an eddy of hot air coming down this valley, which is going to cool off and precipitate through these various mountain ranges. And so some of these valleys, and it's going to be real complicated, so I'm not going to try and like properly do it. But what it basically implies we want to have a thing here. Yeah, okay, so what this is basically implying, hopefully, is that this mountain range, these like stretch mark valleys and stuff, each one is basically going to have its own little microclimate. Again, there's probably going to be a lot of thunderstorms and a lot of hurricanes. Yeah, I think what I said earlier is kind of going to hold true, that like if you live like anywhere along this rough X shape, well, maybe not in the middle. Yeah, less so in the middle, but like these are the hot zones for, like, roughly speaking, these are the hot zones for hurricanes and thunderstorms. Because just like the interaction between these various wind systems is just going to cause havoc. Okay, so we've got a purple arrow coming exactly between 9 and 10. Here. Cool. Oh, that's perfect, actually. We can have it do a little spin like that. And then coming down right next to 8, we need another purple arrow. And along from 11, we need a purple arrow. So between 9 and 8, we have a red arrow. Perfect. And what did I say? Between 10 and 11, we need a red arrow, sort of here. Red arrow there. Yeah, red arrow between 10 and 11. So this is doing that. Okay. We've got some valleys here though, so let's just make it follow a bit more properly. Again, this is just rough, and I'm gonna have to get going soon, so this is fine for now. Let's put in the rough blues on this side as well. I guess there would be a blue there, is that right? Between 8 and 7? Blue, oh no, it's purple between 8 and 7. Okay, well, whatever. That's fine. Okay, yeah, so we want another purple doing this. No, that's not right. We want to make sure the purples are mostly across the ocean, because that's literally where the air is going to be cooling down. Let's get rid of some of these arrows again. They keep distracting me. Yeah, we know that we want hot air to be coming from here. from these 5 main directions. And yeah, one here as well. Oh, come on. There we go. I guess just for posterity, let's put a few more blue arrows in here to just show that like cold air is originating from here. Okay. Okay, I really like this one. I'm glad we got that. Like coincidentally, but it's good. So there's like, that's cool actually. It basically means there's like this huge desert here, huge desert here-ish, and then the like as the stretch marks break away into the desert, there will be like some sort of temperate zones ish, and it'll probably kind of look like how like the points where the Sahara meets like the Congo or whatever in Africa, where you see that like sharp blend from desert to jungle on maps. So I'm pretty pleased to have gotten that. Cool. Now, this bit here, we know, or I know, that I want this to be like temperate forest region. Because the air is definitely a lot cooler by this point. So there's like gonna be a rough gradient from here to down here of like, yeah, and this is gonna work pretty well, I think, as well, because I've got this doing this and this doing that, and then so it's gonna start heating up over here, and it's gonna like eddy up into these valleys, cool down, and be dry and cold over the ocean. So this these rivers backed up by mountains, these are gonna be really nice and temperate. This will be like Germany or something in terms of approximate climate. Do I mean Germany? Germany borders the Alps, right? I have to look this up now. Alps, Germany. I mean, I guess it'll be like Europe, right? In that, like, this mountain range will be like the Alps, and it seems like like a tiny part of Germany borders with the Alps. Okay, more like Austria, or northern Italy. Yeah. Okay. Whereas the other side, like the literal other side of this mountain range, we're going to have more desert. Hooray! And it's going to come around like this. And, that's cool. Yeah, so it's going to like come round and down like this. And this is, we know now, just like implicitly, that this is a warm ocean because currents are going to be coming back up, heating up over the ocean, and continuing the cycle, blowing back up these valleys. And this is what I mean by, like, these valleys are going to just have, like, all sorts of different pockets of climate in them. Some of them will be really nice and temperate, some of them will be really cold, and some of them will be just inhospitable, because, like, sort of what I said here about, like, having them coming in opposite directions. If the mountain range is steep enough, it's going to slice the wind well enough that, like, you can have these wind channels basically going in opposite directions, which is probably going to cause a lot of storms out in the ocean as well. Yes, we want this to be nice and warm. I want these islands out here, this huge archipelago, to be like a nice tropical island type scenario, which means implicitly that part of this ocean is nice and warm and the other part is really cold. Or maybe not really cold, but colder. So what the heck is this purple wind here doing? Because that's blowing out, like, straight out. I guess part of it would join forces with this wind, which, and this is the cool part, right? So this is a desert up here, right? So it's going to be blowing wind around and down and through these valleys, and then onto these jungle islands here, which means these jungle islands are going to be really, really fertile, in a similar way to how, like, sand from the Sahara blows all the way to the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. Like, it just blows all the way across the ocean and is, like, part of what helps to make the like, such a diverse climate for that kind of life, which I think is pretty neat. So these jungle islands are going to be really cool, I think. And then the ones further south are going to be a bit cooler. Okay, I guess the one last bit here is, like, there's a weird thing happening. So we've got cold air coming up like this. And it's gonna again, this is gonna be an effect of, like, these valleys. So this is gonna look weird because some of these arrows are not pointing in the right direction, but I think that's fine. Okay, well, I'm running out of time. I wasn't able to get quite everything that I wanted done for this. I said I was going to do ocean currents as well, but I think hopefully, like, I think with this world building series that I'm streaming, I'm not planning on showing every step. What I will be doing is like taking lots of exports of my maps and so on along the way, and so that at the beginning of each stream, in a similar way to what I did with this one, I can show some of what I've been working on for the last 2 weeks or whatever, but I don't want to be just streaming every step, every second of it, because I think that would be really boring, and also, like, it would be really time consuming. And yeah, so I think I work better when I'm just like focusing, thinking to myself, and not having to talk to an audience. But I do enjoy being able to share some of this process. So I think what I'll do with that in mind is at some point or another I will finish putting in all these air currents, and I will put in the ocean currents as well. And when I next stream, which will be probably in like another week or two maybe, then I'll show you what that looks like and be able to talk you through it. But the process, as I said earlier, for adding air currents and ocean currents is pretty similar. It's just that air currents get buffeted by mountain ranges and ocean currents get buffeted by coasts. Well, technically it's the continental shelf, but that's usually the coastline. So, yeah, I think that'll do for now. So, I'm gonna save. That's important. Come on, save. Cool. Saved. And I'm going to end the stream there. So, yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next time.